It is 6:30 p.m. It's time to call this regular meeting of the Saybrook Police Commission to order. Let's begin as usual with the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Do we have any comments from the virtual public? Raise your hand, please. No hands raised. Let's go to item 3, the meeting minutes for August 28, 2023. I invite a motion that they be approved as submitted.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 4, executive reports. Chief, on to you.
All right, good evening, everybody. My Zoom is updating, so hopefully by the time we get to the presentation, I'm up to date for that. 1 second here, and we will get to those executive reports. Obviously, the budget is first, the operating budget, still the very beginning part of the year. The only thing that I would make a comment on is I did recently speak with the first selectman about perhaps looking into lock-in for fuel prices for this year for gasoline. As the commission knows, we did not do that last year for the reason the market was very volatile. It might be that way again this year, but as that stays an unknown, it's hard to budget, right? So we're paying at the pump prices. And obviously that varies every time that we need a fill up. But otherwise, you know, obviously the budget's stabilized. It's only the beginning of the year. The budget's been frozen by me, like it has in every other year. And the only other thing I'll make a comment about fiscal year 24's budget is we just got a memo from the finance director about starting to create the fiscal year 25 budget. So it seems like it just doesn't stop, but they've already told us to project raises for non-unionized folks at 2.5% and to figure a 10% increase in healthcare at this time until they get numbers solidified. So that'll go into our budget planning. You know, it will follow the same course as last year.
All right. Any questions?
Thank you. Welcome. You have the off budget accounts.
I had no questions on those.
I had one. There was the police admin. There was a town hall transfer of 2450.
Yes, so at the end of the year, we transfer funds related to pistol permits and vehicle charges for outside jobs, and that's just one of the transfers. So we keep it in our administrative fund for that entire year, and then there's one single transfer at the end of the year. It's part of a longstanding policy for the finance and the finance director and the board of selectmen to do it that way, rather than we used to do it every month and just
Got two less. Okay.
Okay, personnel matters.
All right, personnel matters. No real personnel matters to report this month. I can go on to professional development, which is just a brief update this month. Patrolman Mora attend a physical fitness evaluator certification course. This is a course that Patrolman Mora was interested in taking. And, you know, one of the things that we spoke about at the beginning of the year, my executive goals, we'll talk about at the end of this year, is getting folks into the classes that they're interested in as part of a retention philosophy. So he expressed an interest in that, which is great because it spurred an interest in some of our other staff members watching someone go off the class to put in for academy classes as well. And we submitted all of their requests. And so when the academy chooses them, they get to go to school, and then I obviously report it back to you at your meeting. So pleased to see that that's starting up again and classes are being held in person once again at the police academy. For the activity reports.
I'm sorry, Chief.
Yes.
Can I just interrupt?
Sure.
What about the custodian, Mr. Hanley? Have you spoken to him about whether he's going to come back or?
Well, we've had some off the record conversations, but
Okay.
he's on leave officially until December.
Okay. I just, because last time, I think it was last meeting, you discussed maybe getting somebody in temporarily. And I know that you guys are.
We have our contract cleaner who comes in at the end of the day, and then we have a part-time cleaner that comes in for 10 hours on the weekend, but we're definitely missing some of the things that would be done building maintenance wise. It's more than sweeping a floor, cleaning a bathroom, things that affect just general facility maintenance. So as things have come up, we've hired contractors to come in and do them. But I'd be eager to get somebody back in place. You're reaching out to touch me, there you go. I'm eager to get someone back in place to handle kind of all those little handyman type of obligations that we have in the department.
Yeah, you said last meeting that you and DePerry were definitely picking up some of the slack, so I just wanted to follow up on that. That's all.
Yes, Jen did laundry this week too. Jen did the prisoner guard laundry. So we're all push, you know.
You're
helping
pushing
out
your limits.
as best we can. Yep.
Yeah.
Which I have to point out to the commission. I hope you know this is not normal, right? I mean,
No, it's
a
not.
lot of places would be like, not my job, find somebody else, and that's never been the character of any of the folks underneath my command that have stayed underneath my command. It's always been a one for one, all for all kind of mentality, and I appreciate that.
I would just hope this gets rectified in the near future.
Yeah, I sadly think it's gonna wait till December, which is too bad. You know, so I might look to contract somebody to do our sidewalks, you know, during a snowstorm and things to that effect, because we don't have those folks. Midnight shift usually takes care of it overnight, which again is just something that's great. They should take care of, you know, all the cars, but I certainly don't want a police officer getting hurt shoveling snow.
Not a good use of.
Not a good use of resource, right? So we gotta try to do the best that we possibly can.
Is there anything that as a commission we could do to help that, or?
No, thank you for asking. I mean, it's a personnel matter and he has the right to, you know, be out, and he's exercising that right.
So-
Okay.
Yes, yeah, this is unpaid now. Yep, he was out paid, but he's on a 1 year unpaid leave of absence as of last December, so that'll end this December.
So it's an inconvenience.
It is very much so an inconvenience, and we wish him well. We obviously want him to get back. You know, and if he doesn't return as a custodian, he might be able to return in another capacity with the agency. We'd love to be able to retain him as part of our family, but that's obviously up to his physician and probably ultimately the town's physician. To do an independent medical exam upon his return.
Activity report.
It is in your packet. I can tell you the agency has been extremely busy over the last month.
It shows over the summer.
Yeah, well, over the summer, which is, you know, interesting because everyone, and you've seen it every year in our budget presentation, everyone automatically thinks the summer is our busiest time. It is not traditionally, statistically. But we have had a very busy summer. And the investigations that we're dealing with are more complex. So it's less of the go to the call, clear the call. It's more go to the call. And there's lots and lots of follow-ups. There's fraud cases, identity theft cases, embezzlement cases. Those take a long time. And now that we're down to only one person in the criminal investigations division, there's less help for patrol. So patrol is harnessing and shouldering a majority of that responsibility.
Any other questions or comments on the activity report? All right, Chief. Item F, executive goals update.
All right, so I know some commissioners were interested in doing this. Hearing about my goals. First of all, Larry, can you see if I'm promoted to presenter?
Yeah, this one's you, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Although I'm sure at some point there'll be some AI version of me on YouTube.
You should get the.
Yes, I would like to join as a panelist. I'm being promoted. Didn't think that could possibly happen again, but here I am getting promoted at a police commission meeting. Perfect.
Although there is no salary increase associated.
There's no salary. You sure about that? Sure. We'll negotiate that. I think we should negotiate that. All right, we'll share this. This. Okay, and there we are. So as everyone knows, I had 10 goals last year. That was probably a little bit lofty of me to do 10 complete goals, but yet here we are in September reporting on those 10 goals. I started with the ones that still have a lot of work left to do. So our first one here is create an annual report that highlights department personnel, traditional, non-traditional services provided, the number and dispositions of internal investigations, a fiscal statement, the demographics, our program highlights, fleet data, pretty much an all-encompassing, thanks, Larry, an all-encompassing view of the department. Obviously, this is an annual report, so it's not done yet because I have to wait to December 31st, 2023 for the annualness to come to conclusion. So I will produce this in the beginning of January as part of my 2023 goals. And it will come out or in conjunction with your budget document. And as we go through these, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. I'd love to hear commissioners' inputs on the status of the goals. The next goal that's still in progress is creating a professional development matrix for sworn employees that encompasses agency needs and employees' interests with retention hooks. So we just talked about that class that Patrolman Morrow went to. That would not be in the traditional matrix. So the traditional matrix will include things like interview and interrogation, advanced interview and interrogation, advanced field sobriety testing, the A-RIDE course, which teaches individuals how to detect the presence of drugs, marijuana, things to that effect, in addition to alcohol on a stop. There are several mental health courses that I'm going to stick in our very core curriculum. But the course that Patrolman Moore just took would be one of those interest with retention hooks. And so, you know, there's kind of a multi-pronged test when we allow people to go to a professional development course. Is it good for that person? Is it good for the agency? And does it expand their professional portfolio? And so in the case of that course for Patrolman Moore, it did all three, which we're really happy about. You'll see shortly a course that all of our sergeants are going to be taking. They're going to come back and educate the department as they go out. So there has to be a purpose and a meaning for this. So I would assume probably the November meeting, I'll be showing you the matrix of what I feel are core courses that we want to send police officers to. And I'll give you a nice example of those extra courses that could be retention hook type courses.
Question, given
Yes.
the manpower shortage, is that adversely impacting this?
Well, slightly. I mean, so we can't stop doing professional development, right? That's very, very important. And one would think that you graduate the police academy with all the knowledge you need for a little bit, but that's not the case. So in the case of that course called A-RIDE, the advanced roadside course, police officers in the police academy are not trained, this is bizarro to me, but are not trained to determine whether somebody is high on medication or marijuana as part of their basic DUI training. You would think that would be part of the core curriculum. It is not. And so things like a wet lab and things like that come after in your career. I want to try to prioritize that within the first 3 years. So you'll see on my matrix that I'm working on now, you'll see kind of like a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, and then those interest things for that help with retention or employee interest. So we really want to get everyone up to a certain standard in a short amount of time.
Any other questions?
This will be the hardest of all my goals, revitalize and restart the Police Explorer program. And the reason why this is the most difficult is because this takes manpower. And manpower is something that we're lacking right now. And so I can't pull people off of patrol to help me with this because if they get called away, then it's inconsistent. So this is either something that I take on my shoulders and get help from others when help can be provided, or it's something that I kick into next year. So I've been in conversations with our high school resource officer, Karen Gavinelli. She's going to help me start advertising now that school has gotten underway. And we'll see if we can generate any interest. We did interview a very nice young man who attends Xavier High School over the summer, who was interested in joining the Police Explorer program. Our schedule, his schedule just didn't mesh over the summer. So hopefully we'll reach out to him again and he'll be able to do the fall program. The Police Explorer program was really important, right? It can be a feeder program. Sorry, I mean, it can be a feeder program as we try to fill our ranks. We've had tremendous success making our explorers when they graduate high school. We've turned them into per diem dispatchers because they're home from college when our full-timers want time off, right? They come around Christmas time, they work while our full-timers are off, summer, et cetera, et cetera. We've had per diem dispatchers that were police explorers go on to become full-time dispatchers, full-time police officers, work at other agencies, a federal agency, as a matter of fact. And so we're really proud of that. And so my goal is to reinvigorate this once again. I just don't know how successful that will be. It's tough to find people who want to become police officers when we're paying them. I'm not sure if it's not going to be equally as difficult to find young adults who are interested in coming to the police department and volunteering. But we are going to try from this point forward and we'll report on the success or lack thereof in December.
You know, I would anticipate that would be of interest to some young people looking towards that career down the road. I see this as really a win
Oh, it would be a huge win.
for us. So
It's
you know,
time.
it is time to do it again. And again, if we don't kick it this year, most definitely to include it
As next year.
again for next.
That's a great suggestion. But I hope to give you some positive news in the summer. Even if it's just a couple students that we're starting up with, I think that would be good. I don't think we need 10 people right away to, run a second mini department. I think we get a couple people on board. I think that'll be great.
Do you keep track of how many residents of Old Saybrook or its neighboring communities are in a criminal justice program at any of the local colleges?
No, I don't think there'd be a way to do that. But there was some thought when we were starting this back up, whether we didn't call it the Police Explorers and kind of call it a criminal justice club. Because there's a lot of avenues in the criminal justice profession. So someone who might want to be an analyst or a victim advocate might be interested in joining the post. We're going to advertise pretty hard about that job opportunity. And there's also some consideration about, obviously their training would be volunteer, their meetings are volunteer, but as we use them at larger events, paying them a little bit, right? I mean, so they can work in the workforce, and we're asking them not to go to work and make money for college and instead come and help us with an event, which is really taking place of a police officer that just can't be there because we don't have the manpower. And so, we're also thinking about making them community service officers, in which case they would get paid for their time.
You need to have this in the budget then for the bottom.
We might, so right now we have funds for extra personnel for events, and so that's where they would be paid at it. I think that if it became very successful, we'd have to increase that number a little bit and kind of do cost centers for each event and say for the arts and crafts show that's coming up at the end of the month, we'll pay 5 explorers on Saturday and 5 explorers on Sunday. If there's 10 on each day, only 5 get paid, the first 5. Or we may decide as a group that let's fund it for all, and that this is a good, positive workplace experience for young adults. And we're also putting money towards a recruiting effort as well. So again, in December, I think I'll have a lot more to talk about on the Police Explorer program, hoping for success. But if not, as the commissioner said, as the secretary said, it'll certainly become a goal for next year. This next one is a work in progress and will be completed probably in the next 30 days. I have spent lots of time reading a lot of information from BOMA International. BOMA International is the Building Owners and Managements Association International. Bless you. And what they do is they break up a facility into the various subcategories listed on the right-hand side of your screen. So HVAC, plumbing, roofing and siding, electrical, fire, life safety and security, interior finishes, structural, and parking lot surface. And they put a lifespan designation next to it. Jill and Joe, you probably recognize this because public education uses this type of format, and BOMA International is one of the consulting firms that many districts actually use. I don't know if that's what we use in this town. And so what I'm doing is I'm going through their list and I'm taking a look at the various lifespans and my experience. And then hopefully I'll have kind of like a chart for you that would say, hey, listen, our vinyl tile in the police department has a 12-year lifespan. We're X number of years into that. Should we start mapping that out on a capital improvement plan? One of the things that makes me very nervous, and I'll say, although it will probably be met with some resentment, one of the things we're very bad at in the town of Old Saybrook is maintaining our infrastructure. So we celebrate new things and we fail to put money into them continuously to keep them new and keep them, vital. And so I don't want that to happen with this gorgeous and very generous police department that the town of Old Saybrook gave us. And so I want a body like this to start thinking long-term, right? Longer than all of us sitting here, right? So if the parking lot needs to be paid in 20 years, well, I won't be watching the roller, and my guess is no one on this committee will be watching the roller, work in the parking lot. But I think we have to plan for that. And so there'll be a conversation that we have, and then I think it's a conversation you need to have with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. We have a great capital non-recurring fund. One of the fantastic things this current administration has done is really set us up with a strong capital non-recurring fund. And so maybe that's what all these things are. Maybe the scenario is if we need new tile, they want us to go and say, it's time for new tile, we need $20,000. And then that goes off to the town meeting and people vote whether we get tile or not. Or do we go to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance and say, hey, in this capital non-recurring account, like they've done for other projects, can we start carving out a sub-account for police facility maintenance? And so while we'll still follow that process, there'll always be funds earmarked for the police facility. Because one of the worst things we could possibly do is not keep the police facility looking great and in shape and being vital. We don't want to waste all the money we spent bonding to make sure that that facility would last for 50 years. The only way it's going to last for 50 years is maintaining it. And so, yes.
So what would this organization come in and do? Would
They do nothing. They've supplied me with data.
Just information?
Yes, yeah. So they've already given me the data. That's just research I've done. I've not had to speak with one person at BOMA. It hasn't cost the town a penny. But they're a very well-standing international association that has some sort of formula that comes up with these things. And so the reason I talk about them is I don't want anyone on the commission when I present this thinking, well, how did Chief Spira determine that the, tile floor should be replaced in 10 years? No, it's from a professional
I think
association.
that's a good start to have something like this to work off of. But the town doesn't have any kind of facilities operations person that
So,
Dan.
well, Dan served in that
Yes.
role, but he did not cover the police facility. So he did not work in any confines of the four walls there. And there is no plan on the municipal side of government for long-term things for the building. It's when something comes up, we take care of it. And I think that there should be more planning.
We absolutely are short-sighted in this town when it comes to taking care of anything. But I don't understand, wasn't Dan the project manager?
Just for the town hall.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying when the building was getting all done.
No, he was
chair of
the chair of the committee. That's long since disbanded.
He doesn't even work with the library?
I don't know. I mean, right now he's out on injury, illness leave.
No, I know
Yeah.
that, but.
I don't know what he did at the library. He did. Yeah, no, not the police department.
I mean, the thing is, I look at this and I think, you're great at doing a whole lot of things. But should this be under your bailiwick as well? I mean,
No,
this to me sounds like craziness.
this should be to the commission and the commission to the Board of Selectmen to say, hey, can you make sure that you are keeping your eye on the ball? And so statutorily, this commission's in charge of the police facility, right? And so it's important for me to report to you that we don't have a plan, to give you some sort of draft plan, and then you guys decide what you want to do with that. If the commission says, listen, that's way down the road, it's practically brand new, don't worry about it, okay. But I can tell you in some spots, a fresh coat of paint wouldn't kill us. It's a 24/7 facility.
You say it's brand new. It's actually not brand
It's
new.
not brand new, right?
Wouldn't let our houses go, so
Correct.
this is.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
a town initiative, though. I mean, the town has to get going on everything. I mean, look at the sidewalks. We're putting in all new sidewalks and we have a ton that are in disrepair. Roads that have never been paved. I've lived my road for 20 years and it's never been touched.
If I could just say, I feel like what the chief just presented about keeping up with the repairs, it's sort of in line with what we've been trying to do, is just think towards the future and everything. We're doing stuff for the future. It's not just for right now and to appease right now. So we should probably just mark this down as something that we should keep track of and not just lay it all on the chiefs. We should bring it up like every 3 months or so, maybe.
I think it should also be something that we look at discussing around budget time.
Well, that's my
With
point,
the
right?
town. There should be a chunk of money in there.
So maybe this year in the budget, the police commission chooses to ask for 25,000 or 50,000 to be allocated in that capital non-recurring fund, or just in a separate fund for police facility maintenance. With all the rules that you have to go to the Board of Selectmen, you have to go to the Board of Finance, I mean, all the checks and balances in the world.
Right, they would have to sign off on it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're thinking about preserving what we have and maintaining what we have. I think it's important.
I can't believe for 8 years we haven't been laying in that. I don't, it's totally.
Well, it's not just
We
us.
haven't what? I'm sorry, what did you say, Renee?
Facility, that's what just absolutely kills me.
I mean, remember when we bonded for maintenance? You were.
Yes, we
Yeah,
replaced
that's
one
great.
section of the boiler in this building, and if we had just got a new boiler, it would have been way more efficient, but.
And so that's kind of the point, right? Sounds like we're all on the same page. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah, we
you know,
are.
Right, I
Who
mean,
does this
we,
stuff?
we just had people vote to get something for the library, like a generator or something, and
Yeah.
it came out of surplus funds. That
Yeah.
should have been budgeted.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great move. I'm happy that that's happening. I'm actually in charge of that project as the emergency management director. But it's one of our cooling centers that acts as a shelter. I mean, it should have a generator, but in my mind, you shouldn't build a municipal building without a generator. That should just be part of the thing.
Right.
And so way back when they redid this building, one of the things that they cut was the generator. And I actually wrote a grant to make sure that this building had a generator because it was town hall. Like, how could the,
Emergency
you're right,
management.
and that's how we got the grant, but.
Okay,
Okay, so should we make a note to like, just bring this up again at the budget, just so we know, right?
Well, I'll certainly review it in December when I review I'm imagining you're gonna ask me to review or part of January, part of the budget thing. That's probably the more sensible time to do it. And with my review, that's what I've always done in January. I review past year's goals, present new year goals. But as part of that, it might be my recommendation to you to determine a sum of money to put in the budget request. And I think once it's part of a budget request, it certainly becomes a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure very easily someone's gonna say, $25,000 more, no way. And I think that we should talk about what that $25 actually means and represents, because it's smart planning.
Yeah, I guess I was just saying that I think it's important that we also keep up our own list, like as commissioners, of what we need to do during budget season, and we can't just rely on one person to upkeep all this.
Just as information, chief, I was not here when the new facility was built. What did the town spend on that facility?
You know, I don't remember the exact number. I can get it for you because we had two different purchases. It was the land in the old home company building and then plus the renovation, but I can get you the exact number. I don't want to misquote and.
I think that would be a useful.
But it was a huge investment. I mean,
Number to have
we
in
gotta
mind.
be, yeah, we gotta be close to 8-9 million, so.
I think it's budgeted for 10 and I thought it went to like 15.
Yeah.
But I
I'll get you the
included all the stuff that we had to redo.
All right, I think we talked about this one enough. Okay. Next one is refresh the department's website and renew the agency's presence on various social media platforms to foster increased communication, transparency, and engagement among those we serve. So unprecedented changes on our webpage. As everyone knows, we have that virtual press room, which is real time, 24-hour delay, but I like to call it real time. No human fingers on court disposition. So if you're arrested for something, you're in the virtual press release. If you go to court and it gets nollied, automatically you disappear. So no longer do people have to call us and say, can you please take me off the press release? I know Jen enjoys this new efficiency. So that automatically happens. People can query years, months, days, whatever they want to do. And then as the commission knows, we have that interactive activity dashboard, which again, 24-hour delay, but goes right into our records management system and our computer-aided dispatch system. And gives you all sorts of information. You can play around with those different categories. You can download different data sites. You can do whatever you want to do to find out what your police officers are doing. There's even a section with some call reviews and actually lists which officer is actually doing the work. So this is probably the most transparent online presence that we've ever had. We do try to, from time to time, do some things on social media, but as everyone in the commission and everyone listening knows, I hate to even bring it up because it probably gets them all excited. There is one individual who does not appear to be a fan of the police department, and I'm not entirely sure he's a fan of mine as well. But he nonstop hijacks all of our social media posts. And so I think I'd like to speak to council about that, to decide what his role should or should not be on our public platforms, because he is single-handedly destroying our ability to communicate with the public. And when we put out things like missing people, and he's commenting on an arrest that happened years ago, I'm not really sure he's doing the governmental site justice. In fact, I think he's interfering with our mission. And so I will be consulting counsel as part of our the legal budget that's afforded to me to find out what we can or cannot do in that situation, because public engagement is important. We're doing it on the website. We do it from time to time on social media, but I'd like to do it a little bit more.
Can I just,
I don't know. I think I ask him for a recommendation on who to do that.
Can't you just make it so people can't comment?
You can, but then that's not engagement,
Well,
right? So if I did, well, the first thing that someone would say is, he's using this as a propaganda tool, right? The first
so if
comment
you want
we
to be
get.
able to use it and you don't want any feedback, then that's how you get no feedback.
Well, it's not that we don't want any feedback. I think that consistent negative feedback that is not productive is not helpful. We're not looking for someone to say, great job, OSPD, every single time they comment, but we're certainly not looking for someone to obstruct even those who are not fans from getting vital information that we have to offer.
you know, if I could just say that, I did try with this guy. I mean, I did try to talk to him and it didn't work. But I also think that giving any sort of attention to him, whether it's from council or whatever, it's just not going to work. And I actually, looked on other PD sites and their Facebook pages, and they have the same stuff. It's not just us who's getting rampaged and at all. It's really not. So I think if you can overlook it, I know it's annoying that he posts every single article possible every single time somebody comments. Eventually he may get married and have a life and get kids and do so. I think that it's just we just got to work through it and just not even waste money or counsel on him, to be honest.
Okay, next goal, establish a comprehensive gun safety program that focuses on safe gun storage and ownership, the collection of unwanted guns and ammunitions, and coordinate a gun turn event in June, which is Gun Safety Month. As previously reported to the commission and echoed by Selectman Puglisi, that was a success in our book. So that was held on Saturday, June 3rd. We continue to collect unwanted weapons and ammunitions in dispatch. Whenever somebody calls us, we'll go to their house and pick it up. They can bring it into us. But this is a nonstop event.
Do we track how many guns we collect over the course of a year?
We can pull those stats. I mean, we obviously record that when it comes in. And I wouldn't know what those stats are without querying that in the CAD system.
At some point, I think that'd be a useful bit of information.
Okay. Maybe we'll put that in our annual report. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the gun safety program? All right, next one is work with department personnel to create opportunities that promote emotional and physical wellness for individuals and our team. So the first event that I would like to invite the commission to attend is on Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. That is when the police department will be beating the fire department in a softball game. And if not, we have a ticket book. So the softball game, it's going to benefit the Connecticut Cancer Foundation, which is what our short for survival fundraiser was from all year. So this will be a culminating event. Our friends at the fire department, I'm still very proud to be a member of the volunteer fire department, so I get to joke back and forth with both entities. They've already arranged for a pretty significant donation in response to this event that will go with our donation of all summer, and then any donations that we received that day. So the Connecticut Cancer Foundation, as everyone knows, is right here in the town of Saybrook. Their headquarters is located on North Main Street, so I've been in contact with their executive director. And we're really, really excited to do that.
Did you say September 27th?
September 27th, Wednesday, September 27th. I'll send out a flyer.
Where?
Fireman's Field.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send out a flyer to everyone so you can put that in your calendar. Yeah, right. I'm not sure. I don't know about that responsibility, but they did that. Firemen already, to their credit, went out there and weeded the infield, and they're starting to get the game ready, unless they're digging holes and filling with water. We're not entirely sure, but
Is this the first one post-COVID?
post-COVID, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Two other things under this executive goal. On November 2nd, I think it is, November 2nd, November 3rd, all of our department leaders will be participating in a virtual event, which is sponsored by the Justice Administration, Bureau of Justice Administration. It's called Safe Leo, and it's National Suicide Awareness for Law Enforcement Officers. And so we as supervisors obviously have a responsibility to our personnel. Sadly, law enforcement professional suicide has been on the rise over the last couple of years, and it's incumbent on us to make sure that our staff is not only physically well, but emotionally well. And so our first line supervisors have direct contact with all of our staff and contact with each other. And so they will be learning in this 8-hour course, their duty, their empowerment, responsibility, ownership, and accountability with respect to preventing law enforcement officer suicide. So it's a grant funded event, nationally sponsored. They've held in-person sessions in Connecticut and across the country. Virtually is the best for us because I can have all of our sergeants do it and not worry about not having somebody here to supervise. Yes, so they'll be doing that. And then at our strategic planning session in October, we're going to have someone who's working on their doctorate degree from the University of New Haven talk to us about warrior resilience. So this is about mindfulness as it relates to the law enforcement profession. There's been some studies that have been funded by the International Association of Chiefs of Police that talk about mindfulness and how police officers can do very simple exercises, very brief exercises, even while on duty to kind of reset themselves. When you think about a police officer's day, everyone's emergency is their priority. And no matter what it is, it's their priority. And so a police officer can go from a CPR to a wandering dog, to a lockout, to a death notification, to an untimely death. And so, we really have to be mindful of that roller coaster, that emotional roller coaster that a police officer is on. And I think some of these resiliency techniques that we'll learn about might be helpful. We're also hopefully going to be participating in a study with the University of New Haven where police officers can provide feedback that will also go to IACP on what they actually think about this warrior resilience program. Is this something that works? Does it not work? Are there better techniques? Are they already doing a technique that maybe should be codified and taught to others? So we'll be rolling that out during our strategic planning session in October. Any questions on any of those three items?
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, so 3 obviously in progress, none are exactly done, but they'll be done by the end of the year. Next one is establish a committee to review existing safety, non-lethal, and lethal equipment to ensure that we are providing the most superior and contemporary equipment for our police officers. Simple comment, thank you. All that equipment was ordered, all that equipment has been distributed. We're still working on our 1-to-1 rifle program, but that will happen when we're able to get to the actual range with all the new rifles. But everyone has their safety equipment. So new ballistic helmets, new ballistic goggles, new ceramic vests. And we're very, very thankful for that. All of our new sidearms, everyone's using them with the various enhancements on them to make us more accurate and more safe. And we really, really appreciate that. That was not only a boost in morale, but also a boost in our capabilities in serving the public and of course, keeping ourselves safe, which is not only a concern from each individual officer, but obviously a concern for their family. So it's nice when one of our employees can go home and say to their husband or wife, hey, guess what we got at work today to protect us? I think that goes a lot longer than we all think in the confines of an employee's home. So we're still working, Carol, I don't know if I'm beating you through that. We're still working on where we're going to dispose of the other equipment.
You must be a mind reader.
We have not yet made that determination. Any questions on that?
Our safety equipment also ought to help us with recruiting.
You would think. And so, the way our cars are set up, the equipment in our cars and the equipment that we give out is really unparalleled to any other police department in the state of Connecticut. There are police departments that have tactical teams that obviously have great equipment. We give it to every single police officer. So my philosophy in 2009 was to take from the fire department, where I've been a member since I was age 18, is that personal equipment is just that, personal safety equipment. It belongs to you. You should have it individually. And so some departments have a tactical vest in the trunk of the cruiser that's not properly sized and trained with. And in our case, like a firefighter has his own turnout gear, we have our own tactical gear. And I think that that's important. And so it's one of the things that we do try to point out. Okay, next one, lead a team of professionals to prepare for an accreditation assessment and attain State of Connecticut Police Officer Standards and Training Council Tier 1 accreditation. And we've done it. So I'm very pleased to announce that last Thursday, I and 14 other police chiefs were invited to the Police Officer Standards and Training Council meeting, and we were awarded Tier 1 accreditation a month early. So we were scheduled to have our assessment in the end of October. Thanks to the efforts of Captain DePerry, Patrolman Millardo, and Dispatcher Gosselin, and the coordinator of accreditation for the state of Connecticut, Jessica Blank. And I'd like just to take a second to read a brief letter into the record. It says, "Dear Chief Spira, on behalf of the Police Officer Standards and Training Council, we commend you and your agency for demonstrating a commitment to professional excellence in policy and practice. It is a privilege to award the Old Saybrook Police Department State Tier 1 accreditation. The State Tier 1 accreditation award represents your agency's thorough self-evaluation, which concluded with an independent audit of state assessors and appointed members of council assigned to the Police Officer Standards and Training Accreditation Subcommittee. This award also represents your agency's ongoing acceptance of the obligation to continue the quest for professional excellence by working towards fulfillment of any future standards set forth by post that may be applicable to your department. Congratulations, and thank you for your continued support to enhance Connecticut law enforcement. We commend you and all the members of the Old Saybrook Police Department for demonstrating commitment to liability standards in policy and practice." And that was signed by Chief Keith Mello, who is our current chairman of the Police Officer Standards and Training Council. And I have copies of that to disseminate to everyone.
Great job. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yes, this is an incredibly big deal.
It really is. That's
see.
awesome.
And I'd like to share some statistics with you that you may find a little shocking, because I found them shocking. So because of the police accountability legislation, there are 157 law enforcement units in the state of Connecticut that must become accredited by December 31st, 2023, at least Tier 1. The number of Tier 1 assessments that were conducted in 2023 will be 99. Out of the 99 departments that were assessed, 34 passed their assessment. The total number scheduled for the remainder of 2023 is 25. So out of the 157 law enforcement units, only 77 have met the standard in the Police Accountability Act. They're either at Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3, or like 26 of them are CALIA accredited. And so I tell you these stats to put what we have accomplished in context. And I tell you the 99 visits, but only 34 passed. This is not a rubber stamp activity. Okay, this is a significant high bar to reach. Either you meet the standards or you do not meet the standards. And so I would like this commission to understand, but more importantly, all of our governmental leaders and our citizens understand what accreditation is, right? So I'm assuming your high school, your district is accredited. When you were on the Board of Education, and that accreditation is a thing. And so the significance of it in the world of education is equal to the significance of it in the world of law enforcement. And so this is a tremendous feat that's been accomplished by everyone in our agency. The captain, Patrolman Millardo, and Dispatcher Gosselin put in a lot of hard work to get this done. But it really speaks to who we are as an agency, what we do, and to the standards that we consistently abide by. And I think it's important that people stand up and take notice of that.
I would just have a note of applause for the effort by Captain DePerry, Patrolman Millardo, and Dispatcher Gosselin. The commission is proud of the department and proud of them.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry again that Captain DePerry has made the very sound financial decision that he made.
Sad that the town couldn't offer more. And so our dispatch accreditation, we'll be filing for that probably within the next couple of weeks. We hope to hear back by the end of the month, but that's dependent on that organization. We needed so many months of data. And so when I announced this as my goal in January, people had to get work to make sure that we had 9 to 10 months of data. So that data collection kind of started in February, and, you know, we'll see where it winds up. But I hope that we'll hear from the Academy on accreditation for dispatch in December, if not, hopefully the very beginning part of January. Any other questions on that? Yes, Carol.
It's not a question, it's a comment. First off, congratulations on completing it,
Thank you.
but on a negative note, I believe. the
Why do you gotta go
commission-
negative?
Because I can.
There's nothing negative about this, but go ahead.
No, I don't feel that we were informed. We had asked several times how it was going. And now it's done. I'm thrilled that it's done. I'm thrilled that we are accredited, but I'm not quite sure that as a commission that said we should be doing this, and, you know, I just don't feel like we were filled in along the way.
So you didn't say that we should be doing this. The state law said that we had to do it. I listed it as one of my executive goals, and every time that we were asked at a commission meeting about the progress, we told you. And so we've worked very hard in the last 4 months to beat our goal, to beat our deadline, and we've achieved accreditation. There is literally nothing negative about this.
No,
The accreditation
achievement
standards
is-
have to
the
deal with
achievement
the-
is not negative. That's not what I'm saying. But at commission meetings, we have had at least one individual who was constantly berating the commission on why were we doing this one, not Kalia, blah, blah, blah. I just feel that, you know, along the way.
I know you asked
could have-
repeatedly. I
It
do.
could have been, we could have been better informed than here we are and done. That's all. It's just a disappointment, but
Well, I think every time it came up, we told you we were working on it, which is what we were,
exactly.
right? And so what else did you want us to say?
I don't know. It just seems to me, I mean, I'm thrilled it's done. I really am. And I will probably want to put this in front of somebody's face, and you know who I'm talking about.
I
but-
don't, I like it to go in front of many people's faces
Well, yes, but one in
because it's a
particular.
great accomplishment.
But from what Carol's saying, and maybe I'm incorrect, Carol, but I do feel like at one point I thought we were at a standstill with it because I didn't feel like we had heard much about it. I mean, I'm glad it's done.
Yeah.
No,
I'm-
No,
I'm-
you guys stop. It has been brought up a million times, and the person that you are talking about has not only brought it up here, but at other meetings before, and you had plenty of opportunity to present the updates that we have been getting. And
I'm
now,
not talking about that, gentleman. I'm talking about. I'm
okay,
talking
well,
about
either way, let's look back. You can watch your videos, you know, of the past 12 months. How often did you or Carol bring up how is the post accreditation going?
Okay,
How many
Okay, I'll
times?
go home and that's what I'll do. I'll
Please do,
I'll watch the
and then
moment.
come back and tell me how many times.
I would like to ask the commission to abandon this line and focus on the achievement and move on.
Agreed. I think it is a significant achievement. I don't quite know what there would have been to report on except to say.
We were making
So
progress.
We're progressing on it, which is what you did say each and every time that issue was raised. But this is significant, and it's especially significant because it happened ahead of schedule as well.
And listen, anytime we were asked a question, like you asked for the standards, I emailed you the standards, right? There was no, it's a very transparent process. It's operational in nature, is required by law. It was done ahead of time. We went through our assessment and passed, unlike sadly some other agencies, right? And I'm not looking to compare and contrast. I want Old Saybrook to be proud of what we do. And this says very glaringly that what we do is proper, what we do is correct. And, you know, that's one of your oversight responsibilities. And it was just proven independently that that's what we do. Accreditation matters, standards matter. It's not a rubber stamp event, and it's something to be happy about.
I only had this question. How much time do we have before we have to get to tier 2?
Tier 2 is next year. Yep. But it's a significant less heavy
And this
lift.
one.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yep.
Well, it's
And will that
particularly,
be something that you can measure progress by monthly or?
It's gonna be, we're working on it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for example, this last time, never mind,
yeah, you're
I'm-
doing what
I'm
you said you
prolonging
didn't want to do.
conversation.
Okay.
It's
a good achievement.
Sometimes it's good just to be happy.
Yes. Number 10.
So, a great segue. Work together with the commission to reset our professional relationship. This can be accomplished through honest conversation and active listening. Then I hope to move forward together, working transparently, respectfully, and collaboratively as one team with different individual roles to achieve success on behalf of our employees and our citizens in areas related to matters of public interest and organizational vision. I believe we have done just that. I believe that we have worked so much better over the last 9 months than we did the previous 12. And so thank you for that. The only thing that I add to that is this should really become part of our norm. I think it has, but this is something that we all probably have to continue to work on. And so, you know, when we come to these meetings, we have to be here respectfully and respect each other. We got to have our goal of working collaboratively, because after all, that's really what the town citizens want, right? There's a very small group of people that get angry and are loud and are boisterous. The average citizen in the town of Old Saybrook depends on us to make sure that we have a police department that can provide services when they call 911. And collectively and collaboratively, that must be our goal. And so we do have to celebrate, you know, victories and accomplishments. It's very, very important because we're dealing with human beings. Our employees are humans. And so when they do something right, we have to celebrate it. When they do something wrong, we have to hold them to standard. And we've done just that over the past 9 months, right? Anytime there's been a serious discipline matter, I've brought it to you, I've made a recommendation, you've concurred, and we've asked people to leave our employee who do not belong in Old Saybrook. And so I appreciate the work that everyone has done. I appreciate the tone that we're doing it in, and I hope that this is part of our norm, and I just hope that it continues this way.
Thank you for your participation in that.
You're welcome, sir.
Any questions on this goal or comments?
And that is it. So that's the 10 executive goals that I presented in January, and I'll look forward to presenting the culmination of those goals in January when I give the budget address for fiscal year 25.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
See none.
Okay.
Move on to item 5. The first selectman's letter email was dated September 7, 23.
Hey, Chubb,
Yes.
I'm sorry. The video is like really weird right now.
I
It's
see
cutting
it breaking
out.
up.
Is it me?
No.
No, it's happening at this end too.
Okay. Well, keep going. At least I can hear you. That's all that matters.
Our IT specialist is addressing it by hitting the television screen.
Perfect.
I guess the important part, the important thing is, can you hear us?
I can hear you, and I'm hitting my phone as well. I'm going to mute myself, though, why I hit. So
I'm going to look away from the screen.
That's pretty easy.
Okay. I think everybody has seen the first selectman's email. I think it is appropriate that the commission respond to it. I think broadly, we should begin by thanking the first selectman for appreciating the urgency that we attach to addressing this. But he does confirm that he's reached out to Labor Council to determine if the union is interested in starting negotiations earlier than normal. We should applaud that and encourage it. He also tells us that he thinks we should examine the overall health of the department as it pertains to non-fiscal issues. I think that's something we can also second. A year ago, this commission requested a budget of $50,000 for independent consultants to, among other things, look at recruiting and retention. So we are certainly on record ourselves as saying we think that's a good idea. The last point I think that we should make is that when you are examining the overall health of the department, that is by statute a responsibility of this commission. And to me, that means that one way or another, this commission should be part of that process, part of scoping the work and part of selecting the consultants, and certainly part of examining how that work is progressing. So I would invite a motion that the chair be authorized to construct a letter along those lines and forward it to the first selectman.
Yeah. No, make a motion, then I'll make my comment.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I think you're missing, I don't disagree with what you said. I think there's two additional points. One is, the chief does not ask the commission to please help very often, and he did. Nor does the commission go to the first selectman and say, please help, and we did. And I found that I'd like to feel more supported. The other perhaps bigger issue is the statement of examining more than the fiscal health. I don't see the request for the employment enhancements that we outlined to be a fiscal matter. I consider them to be an operational matter. The first selectman himself has said publicly that there's a crisis in Connecticut with hiring due in part to the Accountability Act. And he recognizes that. And we are trying to, in a limited way, because we all said this, we do this for next two hires, I think is what we suggested. We're not looking at a long-term fiscal thing. We're looking at an operational crisis that is not related to fiscal health, it's operational health. And I think maybe including some of that in your letter would be appropriate.
I agree, although I do have to agree with the first selectman that the pension enhancement aspect of this certainly is fiscal health of the town. So,
Say something?
sure,
I think that the commission has to be involved in defining the scope.
that's,
And so I think that word's important because I think we throw out the word study a lot. But unless you know the scope of a study, I don't know what we're studying. And I think that if you ask the average Saybrook police officer how the morale is right now, well, it's not great. We're understaffed, we're underpaid, and we're watching people leave to other departments that have better benefits than us. I think a study about the health would probably have different results if we implemented some of the initiatives that the commission endorsed. And so I'm not entirely sure that doing a study before we make enhancements actually helps us, because I can tell you what people think right now, especially now that we've identified it and the commission has said, we agree, do something. And, you know, we're kind of in a period where we're a little bit stagnant, and that might be for all the right reasons, but I think that the average police officer needs to hear that support. And I think at some point our dispatchers need to hear that we're going to be doing a study on their benefits as well. And they'll need to hear that they're supported as well. So defining the scope is very, very important. I think that the way the quotes are given in the paper, it's like, well, are they leaving for benefits or are they leaving because of the chief? Let's do a study. And I think that's an irresponsible way to frame it, especially with all this data, sterile data that we presented.
And we can write a letter, but my concern is ultimately we are not the ones that hold the purse strings. Like I thought we've already discussed that this technically, I mean, we can make these recommendations, but it's out of our hands. If Carl doesn't want to look at the contract and do anything, what do I'm not asking this question, a legitimate question. Where do we stand? Because we're not the union and we're not the selectmen. So
persuasive is the best we can do.
okay. No, that's my question. I mean, I guess it's like you ask your mother doesn't give you ask your father, then go ask your grandmother, your grandfather. I mean, to me, I just don't understand it because I just don't know how much more on our end we can do. Is the union pushing really hard? I mean, they wrote a letter too, but I mean, I feel like they're going to be the ones that have to get this ball rolling.
So
whatever you want to call it, yes, that's on
So I
us.
think there's a couple things, right? First of all, the police commission asked for a meeting with the board of selectmen. Two of the selectmen responded with times when they were available. Sadly, they weren't the same times. It was never gonna work, but they responded. And one said that, pretty much paraphrasing, he didn't see the point in having the meeting. And I think for the police commission to go out on a limb and request a meeting and then not get one is a little bit strange to me. I think the second issue is a study, if you're going to do it, what the scope is. And then the third issue is, Renee, to your point, the finance part and negotiation. But even if that's being handled one way for all the right reasons, it doesn't negate or diminish your request for a meeting.
It's not the first time we've asked for something and haven't gotten it.
Yeah, the whole idea that we asked for it and did not get it is very odd to me. As a commission person elected by citizens, that we could ask the Board of Selectmen and be refused. Pretty much, I personally don't see the point in a joint meeting. I found that to be a very different approach to what I'm used to. But in any event, it almost seems as if we need to have a seat at the table to at least air some of our concerns about what this study is going to look like in terms of who might be conducting this study, what the scope of it might be, all of the different aspects of it, that we have no idea at this point what Carl is thinking. So it'd be nice to at least have that understanding. In addition to the fact that if he hires a consultant to do this, will this consultant be somebody who is appreciating that we're short-staffed right now and that's going to be translated in the conversation from so I just want to be able to understand all of these things and get an appreciation for what he's thinking, which we were just like totally shut out of.
I agree
So-
with you. Go ahead, Jessica.
Right, sorry. It's very hard to get attention. Renee, I completely agree with you. Like everything you just said, Renee, 100% agree with you as well, Jill. I guess I was under the assumption, it's an assumption, that we were going to discuss being able to hire new police officers, at least 2 to 3, with the bonus. And that to me is, really important. And so that's where I got thrown off, is that I'm not sure he is understanding the importance of what needs to be done. We need more police officers. I don't want our officers to get tired. I don't want, something to happen and we don't have enough to cover. If any of you listen to the scanner, there are multiple times where there's not an EMT available. And this is like throughout, the Middlesex County. So what do we do?
So we can't agree to that. We can't agree. We can't sit here and say, the next 3 people you hire, we want you to give a bonus. That's gonna raise a red flag. The union's not gonna allow it. Carl's not gonna allow it. The union organization, you can't just pick and choose. That's not how that works.
Okay, so no.
All or nothing.
Of course. No, I understand that. And again, I'm learning, but are they not allowed to just say, okay, let's.
Would have been helpful.
Right.
This underlines why it would have been nice to get into a room, talk about philosophy and process and strategy. And I think that maybe the commission should renew their efforts to meet with the Board of Selectmen.
I definitely think we should, and I think the invitation for that is in the very second sentence of Mr. Fortuna's email. When he says, a stated reason from what I witnessed in the PC meeting was for the board to meet to get an update on the status of any negotiations that may be occurring. No,
That's not what we asked.
I don't, that's not my intention, and it never was my intention. It was the purpose of the meeting, and I think clarifying that, in case if we're responsible for creating a misimpression, we should be responsible for correcting it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you should send them a letter renewing your request, I think, and leave it at that.
I don't think we gave, I personally don't think we gave that impression, okay?
100%, Carol, I agree.
That it was taken in that way, I have no control over. Co Fortuna is ex officio of this committee. So that he can't come and talk to us even without the other selectmen. It would seem to me that he could come and talk to us. If he's not comfortable in public session, possibly could be executive session.
Because it does relate to collective bargaining.
That's 100%.
And why is
Has
he
chosen
not?
twice not to come to either meeting when we discussed it.
Yeah.
Now 3 times because the letter he just.
And for me, it was process, right? I brought it to my superiors. This board on this matter
Agreed.
is subservient to the Board of
Yes,
Selectmen. You
yeah.
brought it to the next level. I mean, this is a town issue. And so I would just very gently and politely renew the commission's interest to meet with the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if I would put in a lot of detail about stuff. I think it would be like, hey, we got your email. Okay, but we're renewing our request to meet with the board. This is important to us. And it's much more in depth than you alluded to. And just leave it at that. I don't think it should be a war of words and letters.
Well, I don't think it should be a war of words and letters, but I do think we should at least outline in it what our intentions are and goals in this letter. I mean, to at least a point. Because just to say we would like a meeting, again, we're renewing our interest, I think is taking it far enough.
No, and I think there are things that we can applaud, and it's appropriate that we do. And I think your point too.
Well, I think we need to include, if we're going to renew the request for reading, I think we need to state very clearly. So let's take this at face value that there was a misunderstanding of the purpose. The purpose is to discuss strategy. And as I said, Mr. Fortuna he seems to really understand the problem. He's been very supportive. But so maybe let's assume this was a miscommunication and be very clear this time around.
But I wouldn't say, it's just my opinion, I wouldn't say you're in support of something that you don't know the details of. Because maybe you don't support it. And so until details are discussed, I mean, I can't be supportive of any initiative I don't know the details of.
Fair point.
Right? You can say, I have an initiative to get you a brand new car, chief. But if it turns out to be a Volkswagen Beetle with a light bar on it, maybe I wasn't in favor of it. And so I'm not sure this commission is in a position to say, we're in favor of the study when you have no idea what the study is.
Can I also just say, because I'm the only person that can say this, not even can say it, but you'll ignore it. I hope that we all, including Selectman Fortuna, forget that there's an election going on and that we can focus on what's important. And that is all I care about. So let's try to move forward.
Okay, you want a motion to allow you to write a letter
Right.
Yes, make
Motion
motion.
with
that made-
with the points that have been brought out. I'll move that motion.
Well, it's already.
Right, hold on, then we can say it.
How about that?
Yes.
So if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
So how many times are we gonna go back and forth with this? If we get the same response?
Okay.
Are we gonna do this?
Let's cross that bridge.
Okay,
Yes.
because I thought the letter was very clear in his response.
Next item, the new responsibilities of commissioners bylaw.
And there it is.
Oh, sure.
So any changes that you want to make, we can make on the fly in front of everyone.
I wanted to make two not editorial, typographical kinds of changes.
Might I suggest we take this item by item, line by line?
Sure.
Can I ask if we can take like a 3-minute break really quick?
Sure.
5, or I'll just cut out for 5. It's up to you.
No, we can take a recess.
'Cause I
Larry,
think this might take a minute. Okay.
we'll take 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
We are back out of our brief recess. Joe, you suggested going item by item. Does anybody have any problem with role of commission members, paragraph 1?
Is that as in number 1 or the whole?
Yeah, role of commission members,
Number
paragraph
one.
1.
Okay, number 1, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, maybe the secretary just wants to update everyone on the work that was done on this document, just so the public understands what they're looking at. Does that make sense?
Sure. What we did was take what the discussion was from last meeting, and the changes that were implemented as, a collaboration of the group. And, the chief, thank you for this,
You're welcome.
helped to provide the changes from the last meeting, which we had all agreed upon.
Okay. Shall we move on to item 2? The only change here was to strike the word public,
Public.
because if it's a duly noticed meeting, it is a public meeting. So that was just
Redundancy.
redundancy. Any concern that anyone has with that? Item 3, I suggested striking "and this document," because it's my understanding that the commissioners can't, by their bylaws, grant themselves powers, or nor should they, by their bylaws, limit their powers. So I just think we should refer to the statutes, not statutes.
Before the end there, to make mentions.
Can you make that change right live?
Making it live, Mr. Chairman. Okay. That's how we roll. There you go. So,
No,
ladies
No,
and
no,
gents.
it's
Yes, that's it.
P.
STAPUTES.
There we go.
Good, that's good.
STA.
EU. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
TU.
TES.
TUTES.
TES.
TUTES.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Now we're happy.
3 Ts.
Good wheel of fortune word.
Okay. Does anyone have any discussion they'd like to have about paragraph 3? Paragraph 4, instead of the command will, I thought that best to phrase it as are expected to do this. We can't make people do things, but we can tell them what our expectations are. That was a fair edit and not a substantive change. Item 4. I originally suggested striking the word proceedings and replacing it with the word meetings, because that's how we do things. And the only way we do things is in meetings. Jill preferred business, and I have no objection to that.
No objection. No.
In 5, I would just change the word there to its.
Back up.
I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Now we go to code of conduct.
Yes,
You've been.
well, you've been
five.
reading through them. You skipped ahead, but, I think we're all.
I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Under the code of conduct section, 1, 2, 3 are unchanged. 4, we've just been through.
Business.
5, there's a typographical, grammatical error there.
But I don't see any 5. What's wrong with the 5?
It's the word there
Oh.
should be its, because the subject of the sentence is the Department of Police Services.
Bill.
And we can have a,
Okay. The
Yeah.
printout I have the printout, so it just doesn't, yeah, okay. Got it.
done.
Fixed, live.
Got it. But you guys are like clicking in and out, so it's weird.
No changes to 6, no changes to 7, no changes to 8. the change that I suggested to 9. And Jill, I think I suggested striking when the commission is acting. No, I had it when the commission is acting in its quasi judicial capacity, and Jill suggested.
We changed that at the
Yeah.
meeting, the last meeting, with respect to personnel matters.
Right.
And then 10 became 2 paragraphs.
10 became 2 paragraphs. But the first one is just restating what our council told us a year ago, that there's no problem with listening to citizens' concerns and stopping at that point and not engaging in investigations. So does anyone have a problem with 10?
No, my only concern is we should never be investigating individually with any matter, not just personnel related matters. So I would suggest striking, but in order to protect due process, get rid of that and get rid of concerning personnel related issues. Commissioners should be attentive to and listen to concerns regarding the Department of Police Services. Commissioners should not engage in individual investigations.
Well, I'm not sure that I agree with that for this reason. The due process concern is a fair one, and that only applies to individual, personnel issues. The idea that commissioners have some boundaries on how hard they want to work to understand an issue and bring it to the attention of the full commission. I disagree that commissioners somehow blinder themselves as to something that concerns them.
There's a difference in my mind between research and investigating. And again, you have an understanding that even you and I might even agree on based on the fact that we've been on a commission for a while together. But we are not writing these for ourselves, we're writing for the future. And I think it's important to state that you should never conduct individual investigations.
Well, just hold on that. Does that mean that Jessica can't go online and look for what other police departments are doing? Or that, Jill can't go online and look to see, what code of conduct?
That's research. If either of them were to make a phone call to another police department, that would cross the line.
So
As
you want-
Commissioner would cross the line, right?
So here's how I would frame it past this part. I think that, first of all, I think that 10 and 11 are solid paragraphs. And I think that 10 and 11 together speak to our department employees, and we get to tell them very loudly and clearly that no commissioner has a right to interfere with the due process rights. And I think by saying that, we've come very far from where we were 2 years ago.
Yep.
I think that there is a difference between research individually and representing yourself as a member of the commission as if you were assigned to do research, right? And so, at the very beginning, we had some tension, the beginning of 2 years ago. And I think that if we were ever in a spot where we wanted to survey other agencies and you did not want to do that survey through me, I think that the commission needs to say publicly, you're assigned on a subcommittee to do this work. I think what Chubb's saying is, I go back to my Ford and Chevy scenario. I come back to you and say, okay, the Chevys have been nice. We want to go back to Ford. And Chubb wants to Google Ford versus Chevy police cars and come in with a stack of information. I think he has the right to do that research, which is what you're saying. But I think if Chubb wanted to call every police chief and say, hey, I'm chairman of the Old Saybrook Police Commission. What kind of cars do you have? What do you think? What do you then he's representing this commission. And I think that should be publicly endorsed or authorized. Right? Does that make sense?
I'm with.
So how do you say, like, okay, you can research, Google or Safari or Fox, whatever you want to use, but how do you say, how do you specifically say you can do it as an individual, but you can't do it as a commissioner. How do we specifically say that?
So I don't think you're ever not a commissioner. I don't think you get to remove that title and say, today I won't be a commissioner, so I'll be allowed to do X, Y, and Z. Once you're elected and sworn in, you own that title, you own the responsibilities that come with it. That's a good thing. I think that before you start, maybe the best way, before you start interviewing people on a subject, we already know you can't do it in personnel, but before you start interviewing people on a subject, in an in-depth interview, I think that this commission should authorize you to do it.
So you're suggesting number 12.
Well, or is it, does it even have to be part of this bylaw? I don't know. And this bylaw morphed from
Yes.
investigating to, at your suggestion, rightfully so, more of kind of like a code of conduct, right, for commissioners, kind of like this is your handbook almost, as part of your handbook, part of your, on how you should act as a commissioner. If you wanted to add a number 12 to take care of that, I don't think it would be wrong. I just think that it should be brief with not a lot of wordsmithing, because I think we've come a long way with this bylaw. And in my opinion, we're sitting in the home stretch.
Well, we should be sitting in the home stretch with this. And quite frankly, I am comfortable with the way the language reads right now without taking it to that next level.
I am too.
I agree.
So I'm ready. I'm ready to pass it. Let's do it.
Well, let me just float an idea here, picking up on the chief and Joe.
Joe.
We could have another sentence, give it a number 12, and say individual commissioners should not hold themselves out as representing the commission unless they have been authorized to do so by the commission at a duly noticed meeting.
I think that's great. My question is, do we say that anywhere else? Do we say that like earlier on in the
That's what I
bylaws?
was wondering about in the
No, we
bylaws.
do. We do. Hold on. I don't have
Can we
my,
talk about the commission. I mean, I love, Joe, I think that's a fantastic thing. I'll type it in right now. And if it's redundant, maybe it's redundant.
Well, Lana doesn't make that.
We talked about that, right?
The only thing that is number 2 under role. Understand that authority rests only for the commission, but
Sorry, Joe?
the only thing that
That's
comes
not
close is under role, commissioners understand commission authority rests only the whole commission assembled in a duly noticed meeting, but that's a little different than what the chairman just said, that
But I
Yeah.
think that number 2 covers it. I think it covers it in this very large blanketed way. That it doesn't need to be
yeah.
stated again later on.
can I read the bylaws, the authority part, just one sentence or two?
Sure.
It says the commission is the unit of authority. Apart from their function as part of the unit, commission members have no individual authority. Individually, commission members may not commit the police department, its administrators or personnel to any policy or act. So, I mean, I'm reading that more as, you guys are cutting out again. It's really weird.
That's our current.
You're
bylaw.
That's our current bylaw, but we didn't exactly follow that. at
No,
some
but
point.
no,
So
that's not even a bylaw. That's the name. That's in the bylaws. That's under the authority.
Here's
it's not-
12. It is-
Yeah.
Would you mind reading that again? Is that permissible?
Individual commissioners should not hold themselves out as representing the commission unless they have been authorized to do so by the commission at a duly noticed meeting.
I don't think that's bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just, do we really need it? That's.
but again, Joe, I would say that maybe everybody at this table doesn't need it. But down the road, rookies who are just starting off, it might prevent them from.
I think
Making a
the
long-term-
point is, this group has learned by experience, and maybe the next group can learn by a bylaw.
Yeah. So to be honest, like if you're one of the 2 new people that are someone's getting reelected, right? And you're getting this as part of your rules, maybe that sentence means something to you.
More.
Yeah, like Joe said, I guess, we've learned it together over a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Okay, I can go for it.
If we move this,
Tonight, we
Right.
vote next
when we vote in October.
Okay.
Wait, what? No, can we just vote it right now?
You can only
No.
move it to the next meeting. This is why it's been such a holdup, because it's gotta be a 2-meeting process.
So we're gonna add to number 12, that shall run. We're not gonna wait for me to type it. I'll type it before we leave tonight.
Yeah.
And then, so need is a motion.
So I will move that we
Oh.
move,
There's one other change we made in 11. And I just want to make sure that
Oh, right, we didn't review 11, it's up there,
oh,
right?
okay.
if anyone has any concerns about those changes.
Wait, is Carl there today? He's not in view.
No,
No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we changed follow complaint guidelines, which it makes more
We,
sense.
yeah, we agreed that last time, yeah.
Yes. That was a good change. All right, so I move that we move this to the next meeting with the recommended changes from this meeting to approval in October.
Is there a second?
second. Have to wait here.
Pick one.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Unanimous.
I think that was excellent work.
Yeah, we've come a long way on that one.
I hope, Carol, I hope you're here when we actually pass it.
It will be.
unless I die, the plan.
Between now and October.
Okay, moving on. Item 7, correspondence. The only correspondence I have, I've already shared.
What about?
Does anyone have any other correspondence to bring to the group?
Oh, no. I skipped that one.
And any comments from the public? Do we have any public comment?
Do we have any public?
We have anyone online still?
Oh, sorry.
Chief, please
Yeah,
stop.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Oh,
Sorry.
There we
Stop
go.
the share.
Don't see any hands raised.
are
at
there
the
any
moment.
hands raised?
No.
Comments from the chief?
Great, thank you. I wanted to let the commission know that I have participated in the Town of Old Saybrook Department Head Annual Evaluation Process. And so normally I do this as the Emergency Management Director, whenever the first selectman chooses to do the process. I'm not sure if we did it last year or if it was the year before that. But this year I responded in both of my capacities. And that's because, well, I'm, one person. So I wanted to read to the commission, if you just mind giving me about 5 minutes, I want to read to you the comments that I shared with the first selectman in the goal setting part of the process. And so here it goes. Yes, thank you. I have had the honor to serve the citizens of the town of Old Saybrook in public safety leadership positions for more than 2 decades. During my tenure as chief of police and director of emergency management, there have been times that were joyful, times that were dark, and times when controversy fostered the narrative. Through each of these periods of time, I have worked tirelessly to lead through the noise, good or bad, while not becoming tone deaf. I respect both roles that I am humbled to hold, and take all of my responsibilities seriously. I understand that in my roles, I am often the person who must say no, which is why I try to say yes as often as possible. I am also the face of enforcement and oftentimes bear the brunt of matters, whether I actually had anything at all to do with them or not. As an example, I am often blamed for a DUI arrest, even though I was not the one who chose to drink and drive, or the police officer that was properly performing their duties and making an arrest to keep our roadways safe. I accept and understand this role. However, it is sometimes difficult as words filled with hate, retaliation, and/or personal agendas are difficult to process, not internalize, and they also negatively impact my family, who are not public servants. I think that leading so many true emergencies over the years has allowed many not to see me as a person serving in a public safety leadership position, but rather as a robotic public safety leader, always present, always accessible, and always willing to do the right thing no matter the circumstances. I am very much a human being with human feelings and human needs. I find it unusual that those who demand respect the most are often the ones that find it difficult to provide it to others. We often hear the backsided insult about me. He's great at emergency management, as to imply that I am not great at leading the town's most complex and largest municipal department. I think what people do not see is the day-to-day management of the police department, the demand for a high-quality work product and workplace standards, or the preparedness activities that yield successes when a true emergency becomes visible to the public that I have been responsible for over 14 years. We simply could not excel in times of disaster if we did not excel in our day-to-day activities. Being a police chief and an emergency management director are not the most easiest of professions, but ones that I put my heart, mind, and soul into each and every day. Being the incident commander for the town's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts forced me to be in a nonstop crisis management role for more than 2 years. I made many decisions, always with the best intentions to keep people, including the town's public safety forces, safe. While I feel that my performance during that period of time will most likely be the most significant professional contribution I will make in my career, I am happy not to be in a crisis management role every day anymore. As many know, my personality is more to be jocular, to seek consensus, and to accomplish a task with exceptional service with the least amount of resources. I do believe we can always do better, and therefore I am constantly seeking input from my staff and those we serve on how we can do better. As you're aware, I had a difficult personnel decisions to make over the past 2 years. I place difficult in quotes, as they were not hard decisions to make, but they were decisions that I knew would be hard for Old Saybrook's public safety community, both internally and externally. This included arresting a police officer, recommending the termination of 2 police officers, helping others who were not right for Old Saybrook exit, and sitting as the chief law enforcement officer while other town employees were investigated. Admittedly, many of these matters were hard on me personally, but the moral and ethical clarity that must accompany the humans serving in my roles were steadfast. As I continue to lead and persist on speaking on matters of public concern and that pertain to my responsibilities in both of my public safety leadership roles, I am saddened at the retaliation I face. Still, I must continue to lead through the noise and do what is just, not what is popular. My short-term goals continue to focus on inclusion and how the agencies are viewed by others. The department and the office have so much to offer our community. As police, we do not just arrest, and as emergency management professionals, we do not just help during a hurricane. We and the human beings that work for us have so much to offer. I'll use Celebrate Saybrook as an example. It took some on the committee much time to accept that public safety had much to offer in addition to traditional services. In other states, it's very common for emergency management to lead, provide resources and facilitate planning activities for non-emergent civic events as part of their government role. In Old Saybrook, the personnel of the Department of Police Services are the town's primary emergency management force. It is my hope that through communication, collaboration, and example, that police officers will become common sights at all public events and an approachable, friendly addition to those public events, and that law enforcement leaders will be sought out to serve on planning committees at all levels, allowing their expertise to not only promote safety, but enhance creativity and logistical support. The police department and the Office of Emergency Management are part of the fabric of our community. We desire the question at civic events to become, where is the police officer, as opposed to, why is there a police officer here? It is up to each police officer to personify this welcoming and approachable environment. This year's organizational themes, as introduced at last year's strategic planning session, are every interaction matters, and it starts with us. As you're aware, I have presented to you and others my executive goals as Chief of Police for calendar year 2023. This year, I tasked myself with many goals, perhaps too many for the circumstances that currently lie on my desk. While I am confident that I will achieve a large majority of my goals, I think that next year's goals will be fewer in number, but just as meaningful as in previous years. I do think that I must begin to prioritize to strive for some type of work-life balance to support my positive personal relationships and my overall personal health. My long-term goal is to ensure that my hometown community that I truly love and am humbled to serve every day is prepared for the future. I do have concerns that we have become stagnant in our planning for the future with respect to public safety. Significant capital projects are knocking on our door, such as a multi-million-dollar refresh and replacement of the town's municipal and public safety emergency communication system, and upkeep of a very generous facility, including complex building systems. I am worried about the lack of shelter provided for the critical supplies we need most during times of crisis, and the continued ability to purchase supplies to have on hand before an emergency occurs. I am most concerned about the most valuable asset we have, our human capital, our employees. The labor market has changed, standards have been lowered, and the outlook of today's workforce is different with realigned priorities, values, and needs. Public safety services are delivered to people by people. As the desire to serve in paid or volunteer public safety positions dwindle, we must take steps to ensure that a well-trained, well-equipped, and well-staffed public safety force is both present and adequate. My recommendations presented as of late and those presented in the sworn employee turnover report of March 2021 are based on factual information from both local, statewide, and national data. I have never presented a project to our community that was not supported by facts and is a true need. As we enter election season once again, I also reflect on the past municipal election and the past 2 years. I have never seen such a politically charged environment surrounding the police department and me. The amount of hate and the manufacturing of misinformation is beneath who we are as a community. I hope it is much different this election season, not for me, but for the public safety agencies I lead and the personnel who proudly serve. There will always be politics, but when politics interfere with a bureaucrat's responsibilities to provide services in a timely, fair, and unbiased manner while using appropriate resources, society suffers. For the past 14 years, I have been met with elected officials that were charged by small yet loud subgroups to remove me from my positions. I have never once played into this horrible occurrence. Rather, I continue to lead through the noise, advocating for 2 public safety agencies that I am responsible for, its personnel, and our rightful autonomy from politics. Through these efforts, many who have started their public service with one opinion of me, or my leadership, or the department or office, have found through facts and their own experiences that their initial opinions were incorrect. Sadly, in many of these cases, the political leaders who now have different opinions from those in small groups of people fueled by hatred become the target of that hatred. This is wrong, sad, and beneath us. I ask those that were elected to lead to join me in doing so with a moral compass pointed north, with no hatred in our souls, no personal agendas on their minds, and with a goodness in our hearts that would make those closest to us proud and those we serve to be safe. I am not the same person who became the Director of Emergency Management in 2002 or the police chief in 2009. I am more mature, more tenured, and have grown personally and professionally. It is my hope that as I continue to serve as Chief of Police and Director of Emergency Management, that I continue to grow and that my passion for humbly serving our community, for keeping people safe, and turning bad times into good continues to glow bright. It is time to separate personal agendas, negative feelings, and ulterior motives when it comes to ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of our community. I will continue to lead through the noise. And so that, along with a numerical grading score, was turned into the first selectman last week.
I loved it. Thank you. That was great. That was really great.
And just go back.
Department head evaluation by the first selectman.
Yep.
My only comment, Chief, I think many of your points, most of your points were very well taken. My only negative comment is that there is always going to be turnover in any organization. And turnover is going to mean a need to educate. So you can't ever be in the position of being comfortable. You're always going to have to be educated.
Well, I have no problem with educating. I just like educating people with open minds. And so I think if you don't know something and you seek to be educated, you must have an open mind to listen to facts, and then you can certainly verify those facts. President Reagan, right? Trust but verify. But I think when you come to the table with a preconceived notion or a hidden agenda or some sort of ulterior motive, or maybe what I'm dealing with now, where I stand up and I say, hey, my people need better benefits. They need better salaries. I told you in 2021, I'm telling you again in 2023, we must do something. People are leaving. And the response is, I want to do a study to make sure that that's the reason.
I think that's retaliatory in nature. And I think that we don't need to do that. I think that we need to collaborate. We all know it's a problem. We don't need a consultant to tell us that there's a recruitment retention problem in law enforcement. Just watch the news. That would be a waste of taxpayer monies. And so as we discussed before, we need to work on these benefits. We need to enhance them. Whoever has the right to do that has to get it done. And then let's talk to the folks about how they feel about working for a place where we've demonstrated that we care about them. But education's never been my issue.
Comments from police commissioners?
Just, may I? Again, congratulations on the accreditation. What you just read, there's element of, I'm sorry for you having to go through this. I'm sorry for the town too, because this is not who our town is. And I happen to really like living here.
Me too.
But it's just, this kind of stuff is just not necessary.
Thank you for saying so. That means a lot.
I do want to congratulate you on getting the first level, and it's something that your people need to be congratulated.
Fantastic job they did.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of work.
There's work that you do for pay, and then there's work that you do for pride. And I think, you know, you've got a situation here that it's good, and keep going for next year.
Jessica, any?
So I do. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. I just want to stress, I feel like I know I'm the only one here with, student age children who are in the school system. And well, other than Joe, I'm sorry. You're definitely Joe. I'm sorry. And you are definitely administrator. So, I am very worried about the amount of police officers we have. I think worst case scenario, and I am not sure that we are able to facilitate a great emergency plan with that. We have one school down, then we have two, or we have another one. What are we going to do? And you don't always, we can't count on other towns being available when we need something done. So I would like to stress that it's not about, who got arrested back in 1979 or 2010. It's about what we can do to protect our future. And I have a problem with this, and I don't know how to express it to the town in a good way, other than it's not about you. It's about, our future. It's about these kids. It's about everything else but you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. As a perfect example, I recently had a Board of Finance member who's been nonstop, I guess, emailing for the finance director, myself, about the car situation. We had put the car situation to bed a long time ago. And this individual member of the Board of Finance was adamant that we had more cars than what we actually did, because he counted them, which was just not true. And that we didn't trade in the amount of cars that we promised to trade in. And, I once again, and I talked about this, if you remember, at the budget presentation in January, I once again had to send another explanatory email to this individual that this is how it all happened. We traded in X amount of cars. We made a substantial amount of more money than we ever anticipated. The police commission, that has statutory authority over our equipment, voted to retain 3 vehicles for our school resource officers, which has been a tremendous operational enhancement. And that the entire Flip the Fleet program that was done in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, when there was car shortages, chip shortages, equipment, you name it, ended up being under budget. And so I actually said to that person, in some communities, that would be celebrated, or somebody might say, good job. But yet we look to find this glass half full mentality, and it is not healthy for our small, outstanding community. We have to find positive things, right? And so to that note, I've reached out to both of the candidates running. I've offered them candidate briefings, as all of you had. I think the Democratic candidate is going to come in with you, and I'm waiting to hear from the Republican candidate. I'd like to do everyone all together. I don't really think there'll be sticks and stones in a meeting in the police department. If not, then you get a tour down back, I
Well,
suppose.
there's a sign,
Right?
right? No weapons.
No weapons. But again, I think there's a lot to celebrate as we hit the campaign trail in Old Saybrook. I really do, on all levels, education, law enforcement, you name it. We have a lot to be proud of in Old Saybrook.
Yep.
Any comments?
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. And I truly do understand the accomplishment that accreditation is. For in the education world, it is ongoing. We got a letter a month ago that said, great job in this, this, and this. Oh, by the way, you've got another report too. And that was my meeting with the superintendent today. What's next? So it's a heavy lift. That's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think it's gonna be better if I don't say anything.
I will join the chorus of congratulations on the accomplishment.
Thank you to the staff. Yes.
Organization, and please thank. Staff still with us.
Yes. I'll call the captain too. I still stay in touch with them.
Which gets me to my last point. What are you doing? We don't have to answer it now, but I put the question for it. What are you doing to replace the irreplaceable Captain Perry?
Yeah, so-
I don't want an answer now.
Give me 30 seconds, just so people don't think there's a ginormous void. There is. But not the first time I've lost the second in command. And so various assignments have been delegated to other leaders within the agency. And I think that as an agency, we need to stabilize first our shortage before we look at promoting anyone into an executive position. But while that sounds bad, it does provide a phenomenal opportunity for all department leaders to rise and demonstrate that perhaps they're ready for that next level in their career. So that is something I'll be watching very closely over the next 6 months. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the explanation. I invite a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I-
Aye.